Digman is an animated comedy created by Neil Campbell and Andy Samberg, starring Andy Samberg doing a Nicolas Cage impression of a down-and-out archaeologist looking to revive his career and reputation. On this podcast, we like to review the most recent installment of a different series every show. The pilot we're discussing is 22 minutes long, came out March 22nd on Comedy Central, and made me realize just how similar Tim Meadows and Don Cheadle's voices were. It's March 24th. Welcome to today's episode. Am I the only one who doesn't understand the fascination with holograms?
Holograms?
Yeah, so they've been popping up over the years. You know, CNN had that election hologram, then it was Tupac, and then Extrapolations last week that we talked about had all their future stuff was like iPhones have holograms or holographic projection. And then this show comes about, and they're obsessed with holograms as well. The Elon Musk character in this show, he keeps on, his whole gist is that he always is a hologram. There's never the actual version of him.
It's almost like Loki in the Thor Ragnarok film.
Exactly. But, like, why? Like, out of all technology, AI and, like, healthcare and, like, all the cool things that we can do in the future, I don't understand how holograms are that cool. It feels like we've had them since Star Wars. Like, it doesn't... I won't be amazed when I have myself like levitating in front of a screen.
I feel like most people will be.
Maybe. I'm not even into FaceTime, so maybe the hologram thing just doesn't work. Because I usually see people talking on phones with them in like futuristic TV shows and stuff.
Yeah, it reminds me of Parks and Rec. I remember they had something similar to that as well.
Yeah.
I know that this show dives a lot into sci-fi, but I actually have a game here, 3 Truths and a Lie, and they're about, so who created the show? Andy Samberg and Neil Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
It's about them, and I want to see if you can guess which one the lie is.
Okay.
So the first one is the person who did the score for this show is called Corn Muffin. The second one is this is the first series Samberg and Campbell had every step in the creative process for. So they did like everything from casting, editing, all that stuff. The third
I
one
believe
is
that
Neil Campbell met Andy Samberg through Scott Aukerman. And then the fourth one is Andy Samberg is second billed and already shot an upcoming biographical dark drama called Lee. And it's coming out, I think, later this year or sometime next year.
Okay, so one of these is fake.
Yes, one of these is fake.
I will say, because the last one would normally be my answer, but I'm going to say it's the Scott Aukerman one. I feel like that's too easy.
Okay, well, that one is actually 100% true.
Okay.
Andy Samberg and Neil Campbell met on the night that Samberg hosted the MTV Movie Awards back in, like, 2009. Neil Campbell, he's also worked...
I remember the ads to that, because he had that one with Will Arnett.
Yeah, he did all of those, like, promos for it on YouTube. But yeah, they met through Scott Aukerman because Neil Campbell, he's worked on Comedy Bang Bang, and also he's been on like bajillion-dollar properties.
No, I knew that too. And I also feel like Corn Muffin could be, or whatever.
It was that one.
Yeah.
Actually, though, it was called. His name is Cornbread. So it wasn't too far off from the actual thing. And I think that Samberg and Campbell told him to go full John Williams on like the project. Is that what the score felt like at all?
It's 22 minutes. I wasn't paying attention to the score, honestly. Yeah, so the main character here is called Rip Digman.
Yeah.
And what do you know about him besides that he just kind of is Nicolas Cage mixed with Indiana Jones?
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what Andy Samberg did. It was influenced by National Treasure, and Andy Samberg used Rip Digman, or Nicolas Cage, as a starting point.
Which
like
you've always seen
SNL.
his like impersonation or impression of him on SNL. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. But he's like a rundown Indiana Jones. That's all I know.
Yeah, so there's a few like specific things about him that you should know. First of all, he only uses old, outdated expressions. Like at one point they're running away and he says, "Lay a patch or we'll be riding the pale horse." And I had to look up like what each, because that's two different expressions. Pale horse is like death, and then lay a patch means just run. So run or we're gonna die. Horse feathers, which is the same thing as poppycock, balderdash, Tommy rot, nonsense basically. Shovel bum worth their salt. Wolf whelp. Wolf whelp is like a little baby wolf. And then pigeon-livered, church bell, canceled stamp. He uses all of those.
He uses all of those in the span of 22 minutes.
Yes, yes, yeah. And it actually works for him. I think that's probably one of his better traits because it's distinguishable. He has a whip like Indiana Jones, but unlike Indiana Jones, he's not afraid of snakes. So they do show that because he just pets them on the head and then he pulls the lever.
He's out of shape though, right?
He is out of shape, but that all comes because of what happens in 2011, which I'll get into in a second. I just have to continue defining his character right quick. He can't throw anything away. That's the other thing about him. So he's kind of a hoarder. Yes,
yeah,
they even call him a hoarder. Yeah. So in 2011, Rip Digman is on a mission with his wife and his two sidekicks. One is Swooper, voiced by Tim Robinson.
Yep, Tim Robinson, yeah.
Yeah, who's also coming out with his show pretty soon. And they're trying to capture this molten monkey idol. So it's literally what it sounds like. It's a gold idol monkey that they can just, like, it's that thing in Indiana Jones where you just grab the thing and then it, like, causes something to erupt.
The giant ball,
but instead of that, it's a volcano to explode.
Oh, okay.
So it's a super volcano that's located in the fictional country of Mondonesia, kind of like Indonesia, but Mondonesia. And to escape the eruption, they have to run through the jungle of Corpus floraria, which is the death flower, or as you might more understand it, the piranha plant from Super Mario, but instead of just it eating you, it can also its barbs have poison on them, the purple flowers that will cause you to die.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And then they also have to skirt a bunch of lawyers who are making a really good point about archaeological looting and how they really shouldn't be taking the monkey. So there's just
So there's just
one lawyer guy, and there's a group of indigenous people behind him, and he's saying you have to put that back. And they escape, and then they slide down the mountain, and then at the last second, one of the two sidekicks of Rip Digman betrays him. It's the British one. His name is Zane Troy, and he just takes the monkey and jumps on a boat. And at the same time, his wife, Rip Digman's wife, gets bitten by one of those said plants. And so he has to decide whether or not he's going to chase Zane or try to save his wife. Because he thinks he has time and because his wife says go chase him, that's what they do. However, then a bird gets caught in the rotor blades of the helicopter. The helicopter goes down. The wife dies.
One bird?
Well,
wait, the wife dies?
The wife dies immediately. Rip loses his will to live. He gets fat. He gets fired from his job. Which, funny enough, is he works at the Smithsonian, and the reason that Zane betrayed him, besides being treated like an inferior, was because he went to go work at the Met. And so it basically, you remember Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse?
Yeah.
He's the fat Spider-Man. He's the Jake Johnson Spider-Man.
I remember you mentioning that when we were doing Agent Elvis, and one connection between Agent Elvis and this is actually that the same shows were produced by Titmouse, who have done, as I said in the Agent Elvis, basically everything, a ton of Adult Swim.
No, I didn't
cartoons.
bring up when you brought Titmouse up because it's just such a weird name. But is it literally Titmouse?
Yeah, Titmouse.
Okay,
it's one word.
Do you know who came up with it?
No, not at all.
Okay. They also have some weird references in this show, like Andy Cap, which is a British comic strip. Again, not something you would think that the normal viewer, unless you are British, would come across with or figure out. But moving on. It's now 2023, and I do want to point out that archaeology is seen differently now than it has been in any prior decade, and that was probably because they mentioned it a few times in this show. But there's the goal of an archaeologist is to learn about the culture through objects that have been preserved over time. However, a lot of archaeology has leaned into the looting portion of it, which is just there to collect profit. And a lot of things that have been taken are now being returned. So I do find that funny that show.
You sound actually exactly like Samberg and Campbell. They said that they felt like they were being lied to when they really looked into archaeology later on in their lives, because 80s cartoons and always those Saturday morning things made it seem like archaeology was one of the coolest things to be, because it was all about
archaeologists,
archaeologists breaking the law
or
and all
archies.
that stuff. One of the things that Samberg and Campbell talked about was that for Digman, archaeologists were supposed to be the coolest jobs.
They are, yeah. So they're called archies, and there's even a news channel for them. And then also the thing that made me I remember there was a story a few years ago about the Rosetta Stone and how they're trying to return that even, which is crazy. I'm for it. I don't really care one way or the other. I'm just saying it's crazy that that's being talked about. So yeah, Rip Digman is in a deep, dark place. Even the reporters are insulting him. He goes to his secretary every single day, and she has no calls for him. Swooper is basically just working in the basement, and every time that he says that Digman says he's going to his office, he's actually going to just take a dump in the little bathroom that he has there. And the only dating that he's interested in is carbon dating. He teaches now, which he hates. He's talking about the Holy Grail, so I think that's going to come back later on. I'm pretty sure that they're like the overall, and that'll be substantiated by what happens next. But then he meets Saltine, one of his students, who is this nerdy, cheery, amateur inventor, disowned by her parents. She loves Latin, and she, as I said, as an inventor, invents this mirror that can reflect cats as lions. That's the only thing it can do. You put a cat in front of it, it reflects it as a lion.
Okay.
Right? And so she's the one who brings up to Digman, hey, you can get back in on this whole archaeologist gig if you go to Quayle Egan, who is this giant billionaire who's throwing a competition for all archaeologists, including people like Indiana Jones. He's there. He looks nothing like Harrison Ford.
Wait, Indiana Jones is actually there.
Yep, he's just a guy with a mustache. And then you have Zane Troy, the guy who betrayed him. And all of them are there to try to compete for Hammurabi's hat. Okay?
Hammurabi's hat. Okay.
Hammurabi's hat, which I assume is a made-up archaeological find. So yeah, the Archie News is reporting on it, and Rip Digman is on the case, and he has this sidekick now. This is the second review in a row where there's a cartoon action hero that has a small animal friend that's on crack. In this case, it's actually methamphetamines, but his name is Fleety. He's a fast loris as opposed to a slow loris. You might know lorises more as like lemurs.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It's like a sloth lemur type.
It's a lemur,
but it's extremely fast.
That's addicted to methamphetamines.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you remember that Andy Samberg video where he's like snorting crack or something? It's like, I'm gonna have a great day.
Oh yeah.
And then he turns to the camera and his eyes are bulging and he's like.
And he has cocaine like literally under his nose.
They show the fast loris. He kind of looks like that, and then later on. There's also a scene where he looks like that, but I'll get there really soon. So Wendell Banks is the guy they're trying to track down. He's the mentor of Rip Digman, who disappeared looking for Hammurabi's hat. And so they say if they find him, then they're going to find the hat, right? Mm-hmm. So they track him from Indonesia to Venezuela to Istanbul, because the guy's always leaving little cliffhanger notes of where he's going, to Hardee's, and then to an island. However, he provides coordinates to the island, and when I looked up those coordinates, and I probably just did it wrong, I got somewhere in India. So I don't understand. Anyways, they find Wendell Banks' dead body, kind of Incredibles style, where he sees the dead superhero. But anyways, they find the body, they open the secret lair into this untouched civilization of Neanderthals that are living there. And they see the hat. Rip Digman rushes up, tries to steal it. And as soon as he gets it, all the Neanderthals start running after him, but then he puts it on, and they immediately start to pray or worship him, right?
Okay, yeah.
So he's like, this is great. I'm going to just hang out here. They worship me, right? And so then he gets addicted to this emerald forest stuff that just you cut up and you sniff, and that's where I was talking about he looks like Fleety because his eyes get really green and he's all high.
Just for 1 second. So he's deciding to just stay there because they worship him as a king.
I mean, you got to realize this guy's gone through a lot, 12 years of hell. And so now he's just like, these people like me, and I have friends here.
It just seems like this show is going all over the place.
Well, Saltine doesn't want to stay. She wants to get back to the job. So she goes to find Swooper, and she's like, he's not coming back with us. And then Fleety runs after them because Rip has found out that in order to stay and be the leader, he has to have sex with everyone in the village or they'll kill him.
There's always that
There's always sex in the village. So, and these are ugly Neanderthals. That's kind of the point. And so they all have to run back and try to save Rip. When they get there, Rip has fashioned a straw version of himself with a microphone where they can have sex with him, and that's what they're doing. And so that's when what's her face? She's got this. Saltine pulls out the mirror that she had from earlier, and she's like, "I've made some adjustments. Now it's a projector as well." Remember what I was talking about?
Right.
Yeah. So here's the projection thing. when it not only shows the cat as a lion, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they can like run around with it, and as long as the cat is in front of the mirror, it's just going to project over everywhere. That's what they do. Neanderthals get scared. They start running around. Then at the very end, when they're all almost free of everything, Rip turns to Saltine and is like, "Where'd you get a cat in the middle of a forest?" And you realize that it's a tiger, a mini baby tiger, and that's where the mom tiger jumps out. The mirror breaks. They run a little bit more. Then the tiger feels bad for Rip because the mirror flashes on him and it distorts him into making it look like he doesn't have a dick. And so it just feels bad. It runs away. And just as they're getting to the helicopter to leave with Hammurabi's hat, mission complete, that's when Zane shows up. Turns out that there was a note card that he gave him, or a business card he gave him earlier that just said "fuck you" on it. But because Rip can't get rid of anything, he keeps sticking it back in his pocket, and that had a tracking chip in it. And so they just take the hat, and then they shoot Saltine with the same dart type poison that had killed his wife, giving him the same scenario as the beginning of the episode, where he has to choose to either chase Zane or go find a cure for Saltine.
Okay,
right?
so yeah.
And obviously, what's he going to choose? He saves Saltine,
Mm-hmm.
and so she's fine. Zane gets all the credit. He rubs Rip's face into it. I keep on wanting to call him Rick by saying that he couldn't have done it without him. Turns out he's not the ultimate villain, though. Zane is not the ultimate villain, because when he gives over Hammurabi's hat to Egan, Egan then goes into a secret room and then bends down on one knee, and it looks like he's sacrificing something. So he's actually the villain of the series, right?
Uh-huh.
And then Rip gets notified by Agatha, his secretary, that plenty of people didn't realize, because Zane is British, that he wasn't serious when he says he couldn't have done it without him.
Well, as a quick like side note,
Yeah.
what'd you think of Agatha? Because
She's literally there for less than a minute.
okay,
Like,
she's
it's
voiced by
very
Dale Souls. You probably know her better from Orange is the New Black as Frida Berlin. And the only reason I bring her up is because Andy Samberg said that he thought, he never really worked with her before, but he thought that she was the best voice actress for the show. So,
I mean, maybe she has a bigger role later on. It kind of reminds me of Archer, when you had who was the name of the guy who would like take care of him. He then passed away in real life, I think, and so they dedicated. Anyways, moving on. Rip, he finds out that he has all these job opportunities, setting up the show for the next however many episodes. Mm-hmm. Then he goes downstairs to his secret lair office, right, which we've already described as a toilet. He walks in there, and there's actually a secret lair under there. He pulls like some lever, and suddenly it opens up, and guess who's in there? His wife is like cryogenically frozen. And he has all these like computers set up, keeping her alive somewhat. And what his main mission is to find the Holy Grail to bring her back.
yeah, well,
Which it's just Mr. Freeze. He's the good guy, but he's Mr. Freeze.
Well, not only that, you mentioned the fact that like it's a bathroom that's actually a secret layer.
Yeah, I mean that's just
something that
joke.
in Agent Elvis is that actually like the TCB, how you get into the TCB is through a bathroom.
Yeah, and in True Lies it was sort of similar too. He walks through an office.
In True Lies isn't even an animated show.
Yeah, I know, but it's always like that thing where they have the cover business and then like they walk through. Another egregious thing about the show is like when Digman goes on the run for trying to find Hammurabi's hat, his like plane comes out of, I think, the Washington Monument like pool. So like the guy might be out of luck for some stuff, but he's still rich enough to afford some pretty crazy stuff. And yeah, by the end of the episode, I was like, well, that's cool that his wife's still, because I did feel bad that he lost her at the beginning. It worked well as a twist. It does feel like Nicolas Cage would have done this role if asked. I don't understand why they needed Andy Samberg, or why he couldn't have just like made the show and then cast actually Nicolas Cage to play himself.
Yeah, especially with
like
things
right
like
in his bailiwick.
Especially with things like Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yeah,
where he's making fun of himself 24/7. I don't think.
Or History of Swear Words. Like he doesn't care.
From all the research I did, I don't think they did ask him. I think Andy Samberg was interested though in being the main role for this thing.
I guess it just didn't need to be him. Also, Swooper, as funny as that guy is, like in real life, it didn't feel like he was adding too much to the show quite yet. I would compare it to three different things. Most closely related to What the Fuck 101, the college humor series.
Doesn't that show actually teach you something though?
Yeah, the animation style is pretty similar.
Okay.
And also like them going to different parts of the world and learning things, like that's a little similar, but like you just said, What the Fuck 101 had the cool thing of like the comedy be interspliced with really interesting history, while this doesn't have that. So this is worse than that in a way. Then you had DuckTales. For some reason, it reminded me of that.
No, that DuckTales is actually one of the things that Andy Samberg said they took influence from as well.
Yeah, it just
everything.
I don't even know how I would compare those two, but like for some reason, that's how it kind of like feels. Maybe again, it's just the animation style. And then Up. So like Up, there's always been that thing where I'm siding with the villain for that movie because he's just a poor archaeologist guy. Or whatever you want to call him, like a historian who gets like lambasted or ridiculed by everybody because he brings these bones back from a find. They're not even like the real bird, but they're the bones, and people don't believe that it's real.
So you're comparing. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So he goes to the island to find that bird, and there's only and so he's trying to catch it all this time so that people believe him, and yet then he like dies by the end of the movie because like everybody because he's the villain. I don't know.
So you're comparing.
He also invents dog talking technology.
You're comparing Rip Digman to the Up villain.
No, I'm more just saying the archaeology aspect is there, or the historical like looking at stuff is archaeology.
Two of the shows that you brought up, DuckTales and Up, are for kind of a younger audience. But I mean, it seems like this one.
The only part that was like real mature was when he was when he made the sex doll, and then it was getting like pounded. You know, because they do like definitely show a little bit, but nothing egregious.
So except for that, this could have been shown on something like Cartoon Network.
I thought it was shown on Cartoon Network.
No, this was shown on Comedy Central.
Oh, okay. No. Yeah, sorry, I combined the two for a second. Yeah, no, that's fine.
And then his wife, is her name Bella?
Yes.
That's her name?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's Melissa Fumero. Both were in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, including Neil Campbell. He actually worked on that show as well.
Yeah.
And
I've seen his name pop up everywhere. I can't place him in my head. I also know him from Comedy Bang Bang. That's why I thought that was a fake thing, was because it was so obvious.
Well, going back to one of the games, this is again another trivia game, but all of them kind of are. But there's true or false, and I'll consider it a win if you get 3 of them because there's 5 scenarios. But the first one is, and this is the only one not about the show, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which of course Andy Samberg's old show, shot every episode true to its name in Brooklyn. True or false?
False.
Okay, you got that one correct. The show, Digman, is produced not only by Titmouse, but also by Absolutely Productions, which has done, like, the Eric Andre show.
Yeah, I didn't stick around long enough to see if it was. I will say false?
Yes, you got that one correct as well. And then Andy Samberg said he learned the limitations of animation from the art department when they wanted like a particular shot for the show, because the art department had such like a problem with a ton of the shots that they wanted to get because of how I guess complex or how much detail was needed for them.
True.
Yep. And then Andy
I've already won.
You've already won.
All right.
Andy Samberg and Neil Campbell want Kate Winslet and Daniel Day-Lewis specifically to come out of retirement to guest star on this show.
I mean, I'm sure they would want that, but I don't see why they would ask for that specifically. False?
Okay, no, that is actually true. And I should also mention the movie that Andy Samberg is going to be a part of, the dark drama Lee, is starring Kate Winslet. So I'm sure that has something to do with it. But the last one, a majority of Digman is improvised.
Oh man. False.
You got that correct.
Okay.
Only a little tiny bit. I think that they stick majority to script.
Yeah, it would be hard to do animation and okay.
So like, what exactly are your pros for the show? What worked? What was good about it?
I mean, I kind of went over them as I was talking about it. It's not bad. I would give it probably like a 6 out of 10 and watch another episode if it was just on TV, but I'm not going to go seeking it out. Mm-hmm. The only interesting storyline to me is whether or not he does get his wife back by the end. But I'm pretty sure he will. It's just a question of whether or not it'll come at a like cost. Like, where it'll be like one of those things where she's the only way to save her is to like kill Saltine or something like that. And so he ends up like giving her up again, but this time he feels more like closure with it. Yeah. But it'd be cool if she came back and they all lived happily ever after.
I know Mike L. Mayfield. He's done a lot of shows, a lot of like animated shows, kind of in the UCB comedy Bang Bang realm. He's worked on Big Mouth, Mr. Pickles, which he wrote for, American Dad, King of the Hill, and The Midnight Gospel, the Netflix show, which he wrote for as well. And Andy Samberg, I didn't know this, actually wrote for the Boys Diabolical series, which came out last year.
I think I did remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the show has gotten
that got panned, but like it wasn't as bad.
The Boys Diabolical got panned. Yeah, this show has gotten like mixed to positive reviews. It doesn't have a tomato meter yet, but it has 3 tomatoes and 1 rotten. The 1 rotten was like from CBR or something, saying that it was like unfunny and kind of uninspired.
Did they see more than the first episode of it?
Yes, but also I have one more game here. I want to go through it. So, including Digman today, how many animated shows have we done for today's episode? This is multiple choice. A, 38, B, 26, C, 30, or D, 33?
Oh, I don't know. 33? Before you answer, though, I did want to say that the reason I thought that Tim Meadows and Don Cheadle's voice sounded so similar is because in Agent King, right? Or Agent Elvis, you have Don Cheadle in there playing the commander, right?
Yeah.
And so when I heard Egan's voice, Quail Egan, the billionaire's voice, I was like, oh, he did 2 animated shows at once. And then at the end of the episode, I was like, oh, that's Tim Meadows. Okay, all right. Because they sound shockingly similar.
I know the cast was happy to be able to get as many people as they did just because of their busy schedules and everything.
But yeah, okay, so 33.
30.
All right.
It was C. But yeah, that's about all I have for this show, really.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.